Live from Shore Manor Studios, this is Tales from a Small Town Journalist with Matt Shore.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this episode of Tales from a Small Town Journalist, the podcast dedicated to all the weird and wonderful stories you are only going to hear about from reporters working in small communities just like yours. I'm Matt Shore, and I was a full-time journalist for almost 10 years before I finally hung up my camera and my notepad, and in that time I had a pretty fair share of interesting experiences dealing with the public. And I got to know a lot of other reporters who also had some equally interesting experiences working with the public. Before I go any further, I do want to make sure and mention that this is a listener-supported podcast, supported by wonderful folks just like you. Normally, I mention a couple of different cool ways that you can support us, but this time I'm only going to mention one. As you may know, or if you don't know, I'm going to tell you right now, we have a Kickstarter going right now. There's a Kickstarter up for my webcomic, Moby Dick Back from the Deep, about Moby Dick returning in modern times as a zombified beast wreaking havoc wherever he goes. I know it doesn't sound very journalistic, but that is a webcomic that I've been working on. This is my third outing on Kickstarter. Had 2 successful ones so far, had thousands of people reading this thing online, and we're trying to keep this voyage going. And to do that, we're going to need all the help we can get. So if you like comics, if you like horror, and if you're interested in Moby Dick, or if you just want to throw a little support our way, head on over to the Kickstarter page. We're going to make sure and put a link in the show notes. Go over to Kickstarter, check out Moby Dick Back from the Deep number 3. We would love to have you guys aboard. Appreciate all the help that we can get. This episode I'm going to be talking with John Wright from the Murray Ledger and Times in Murray, Kentucky. John has had a rather prolific career. He's been doing the journalism gig for quite some time, and he is a well-respected figure in his community at this point in his career. As he should be. He's been on the front lines for some really amazing things. Not the least of which was the destruction of a bridge when it got run into by a boat. And I want to make sure I'm clear on this. I'm not talking about one of those simple concrete bridges that run across a creek somewhere out in the county. No. I am talking about a massive expanse of a bridge that covered a large body of water. We're talking cement, metal, the whole deal. This thing was just completely wrecked when it got run into by an enormous, huge boat. And he was there for a lot of the fallout of that. So that's just one of the really amazing stories that we're going to be talking about. So I won't keep you waiting. We'll get John on the line right now, and here's some of the cool stuff that he's got to talk about. Okay, I've got John Wright on the line. John Wright is a reporter for the Murray Ledger and Times. I have not worked for the Ledger and Times, but if it's anything like the papers that I have worked at, that means that John is a writer, a photographer, a computer quote-unquote expert, social media surfer, and just whatever else the job may require. Would that be accurate, John?
You're about right. We do a little bit of everything. In fact, I've discovered a few things here in the last 2 or 3 years I did not know I could do. So you're definitely a jack of all trades in a job like this.
Yeah, I think it was always that way, and it just seems like as time goes by more and more, it just sort of becomes more that way. I don't know a better way to put it.
Well, I've even had some nights where they've called on me to help get the paper through so it could be taken to the bank. So I've even helped out with an ad or two after hours, which really was not part of the job description, but my publisher is very appreciative when I come through the clutch like that in the middle of the night.
Yep, I could relate to that. I had a few situations like that during my time.
Absolutely. And in fact, I believe what we're talking about here, interesting moments that have happened in my career, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive right into that.
Well, let's let's start with a situation that was not in the job description. One night I was in Benton at the Tribune Courier. It was on a Monday night, which was the night where we do sports stuff. I was a sports editor for 10.5 years over there, mainly with Marshall County high school sports, but also some others. And one night I get a phone call from the Paducah Sun, their press person, and he says, we've had a fire down here, and we need to get a hold of your publisher. So I ended up calling my publisher. I said, the Paducah Sun's had a fire, and I think they want to use our press. And he said, wow, I'm glad you called. It turned out it's a pretty serious situation. I was kind of wrapping up for the night at that point, which is rare, because Monday nights were usually very, very long for me going into Tuesday mornings quite often. Sometimes it's like 3, 4 in the morning. And that night I was able to get out like at 11:30. And as I'm leaving, here comes the Paducah Suns people to take over the press. And that's just one of those moments that's pretty weird.
Yeah, that would be. It makes me think of the time that one time when I was at the Mayfield Messenger, shortly after the ice storm, power was down for so long that the office had no power, the press had no power, so I had to go to, I believe it was Union City, to work to their paper, which was ironically called the Messenger, and
yeah.
They had totally different software, so I couldn't just take like the Messenger's template files or anything there. I had to take a hard copy of the Mayfield Messenger and try to duplicate what it looked like using the Union City Messenger's software and computers at the time, which made for a long, long, long day.
Well, let me guess. Kevin Weeks and Mike Hutchison weren't even there, were they?
Kevin was with me. That was the time Kevin Weeks was still working for the Mayfield Messenger.
Oh, he was in Mayfield by then.
He was in Mayfield at that point, but he still had a lot of contacts with Union City Messenger. So I believe he was the one who set that up.
Well, I was going to say, if Kevin and Mike were there waiting for you, that would make things a little easier. Those are two great ones right there.
Yeah, I actually, when that happened, I met Kevin at his house, and then from there, he and I went to the Union City Messenger. So it was an interesting experience.
Well, let's talk about interesting experiences. Everyone remembers here in Western Kentucky the Delta Mariner crashing into the former Eggersbury Bridge over Kentucky Lake one fateful January night. I believe it was 2012. The same year I left the Paducah Sun to go to Murray. And I was still with the Sun at that point. And, a few days after that, we got wind that the Delta Mariner had gotten free from its being captured, if you will, by the trusses of the bridge, and it was floating or heading down the lake, and they wanted to find it and get a shot of it. Well, I go to land between the lakes to find it, and there was another guy at the Woodlands nature station over there at Golden Pond. He was from Bowling Green, someone I didn't even know, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking forward too. Let's go together." And I said, "Okay, but I can't drive this Paducah Sun vehicle." It was a brand new Jeep, Liberty, and I didn't need to be going out in the country with that thing. He said, "No, just get my thing." He had like a Land Rover or something, and we ended up going on one of the weirdest trips of my life. These hills down there in LBL in the wintertime, with all the rain that happens, they form these very, very deep crevices. I mean, 3-4 feet deep. And we took that vehicle down there. We were doing, I'm telling you what, we were bending that vehicle over. It felt like we were going to turn over. At one point, we went up a hill. It felt like we were going to go jackknifing over the top, going backwards, looking like a pogo stick going down a hill. But we found that sucker, and I got the shot. It was a harrowing trip, though. said, there were times I didn't think we were going to make it.
I saw pictures of that boat, and they were probably your pictures that I saw, and I just remember looking at that thing, just being in awe of just how enormous that thing was, and then also thinking, how in the world did they expect to drive this thing through here without hitting something?
Well, it's just one of life's little mysteries, man. No one knows. I don't know what happened there, but it's just one of those things that it happened, and off we went. We talk about weird things. I'm sure I'm going to be forgetting some stuff, but one thing that came to my mind yesterday when I was at the Sun, I went to cover a wreck on what is now I-69 in Graves County, near the Marshall County line. That's Julian Carroll and Purchase Parkway to most people here. And there was this overturned tanker truck that turned over and closed traffic and everything. We got permission to go past the KSP, checkpoint to get close to it. I said, I'm with the Paducah Sun. He said, yeah, go on through. There's not a whole lot going on. And I get there, and there are both emergency officials and even some of the troopers themselves climbing on top of this thing. Now, look, this is a tanker truck. I'm like, is that really a smart thing? He said, no, it's harmless. Everything's fine. In fact, you can get up there if you want to. I'm like, really? Well, I ended up getting a little bit of an assistant boost because I was kind of wearing, golf shirt and the slacks, not exactly climbing clothes. And hey, I climbed up on that thing myself and got some great photos. I got aerial photos of a wreck. And they were really, really impressed when I got back to Paducah. So, but one of the weirdest things I ever did, Matt, was I went to the what was the Ledbetter Bridge over the Tennessee River between Livingston County and McCracken County. And this was the day of an earthquake, a pretty serious one that struck western Kentucky and most of Kentucky, actually, about 5.3 measure. And there was a bridge inspector out there for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, and Keith Todd, who's the district's public information officer, was out there with me. And we're on the bridge. It was closed to traffic, and he said, hey, this guy's going under the bridge. You need to get a shot of that. I said, okay. So this is interesting. He's down there on the pier. We're up on the bridge. I said, what, down there? He said, yeah. So I take a new Nikon camera that the Sun had just purchased, and I stuck that sucker without my strap on my neck over the river to get a photo of this guy. And it was one of the best photos I've ever taken in my life. I did not drop the camera, thank goodness. And I come back with a photo where it looks like whoever took it was standing on the truss outside the guardrail. Literally, I looked like I was dancing on the girders of the thing with no, live without a net, the old Van Halen thing. That's what we were doing. And my mom saw that photo the next day. She was like, John, what were you doing up there? So I had fun with her. I said, yeah, I was actually standing outside the guardrail with nothing to. She said, John, no, you didn't do that. I said, no, I didn't. I just stuck the camera over the guardrail. She said, you did what? So, yeah, in this business, you have some very, very, very interesting things that you're able to do.
No 2 days are the same.
They are not. They are not. Like I said, I'm probably forgetting a whole bunch of these other things I've done. But that's a few of them right there.
Well, speaking of strange times, as we record this, we're in a rather strange time right now all over the country with the COVID-19 pandemics sweeping across the country. People are having to change everything about how we function. So many of us working from home. How has that impacted you specifically as a reporter working for a newspaper?
It's when this first happened, we were thinking in the newsroom, and a lot of people outside the out in the community, they were saying, "My gosh, what are y'all going to cover? All the events are getting canceled. You guys are going to be having a fight just to find stuff." That's what we thought. Reality is, we're as busy as we've ever been, and believe it or not, we are gaining subscriptions, which is unheard of in this era. We are actually gaining subscribers, and we had a good reputation for holding the fort, so to speak. Before all that, we to a man down there said, "These people need their paper, and we're gonna give it to them, no matter what we have to do." Well, we've managed to do some pretty good stuff, I think, man. And as far as changes, not really. In fact, we're more busy than we've ever been, I think, because all these events that got canceled, it's made us better because we've had to find stuff. We've had to go out and really dig deep to find stuff. Now, we've had some real help in the community. Some people have put some bugs in our ear, and it's been up to us how we handle it. And really and truly, we've come through it okay, I think, as far as the daily operation of the paper, and as far as what we're putting out. We're getting a lot of confidence, and we've had some amazing stories. Just me alone, thanks to, again, some bugs being put in the ear. I have done stories on a Murray High graduate who is now at Mount Sinai up in New York City, a hospital, working with their blood clot research, because blood clots has apparently become a real big issue with this COVID-19. Some of the cutting-edge work started at Mount Sinai, where this doctor is currently located. We've also had a nurse from Murray who went to Boston, and people have heard about New York City quite a bit here in this pandemic, and rightfully so. But what we heard from this person in Boston was a nightmare that is still unfolding. Massachusetts is the number 3 ranked, or has the 3rd highest number of cases in the country. And from what she told me, I believe it. And just Boston alone, it was a harrowing story. And here this morning, a story that I got from just talking to a Murray State person, I found a Murray State nurse anesthetist, I think I got that right, a graduate, who was working at a hospital in Manhattan, and she was able to tell me how she's seen New York City now starting to stabilize from what she's seen, and from when the pandemic was really at its height, where people were really scared, really, really worried, and even a nurse at the hospital that she worked was assaulted by a homeless person early on. Now she walks down the street, people will applaud her, and we have the headline today: MSU alum seen as hero in NYC. I mean,
that's great.
You don't get this stuff without this situation happening, man. And tomorrow, I'm going to have an unbelievable interview with a COVID-19 survivor from here in Murray. And it's going to be the first time we've identified someone who has been a patient of this horrible disease. For the first time, we're going to identify someone publicly in Monday's paper. And in fact, I talked with him before I left the office today to arrange the interview, and that's exactly what we talked about together. I said, you have a chance to tell people what this is all about, and that they need to take this seriously. He said, yes, sir, I do. And he's 77 years old. He is one heck of a person. and I'm looking so forward to talking with him tomorrow morning.
Cool. Yeah, that speaks a lot of him being willing to come forward and be upfront like that.
Yeah, it does. His doctor sent me in his direction, and he said, I think this will be a pretty good story for you. I'm going to be talking to his doctor. I'm going to talk to someone from the hospital here who also helped with him. And it's a testament to it really, really takes a village to get through this situation. A lot of people helped him. And that's how it is with a lot of people right now, man. No one person gets someone through a crisis like that.
Well, that'll be quite an interview to read. I'm sure I don't have to tell you this because I'm sure you'll do it, but go knock it out of the park.
Well, that's the plan. That is the plan. And I'm already very, very. I'm like a running back for the Tennessee Titans getting ready to play the Super Bowl. I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I'm really, really getting geared up for it.
Cool. Well, it's good to hear too that the paper's doing well, that you're able to keep everyone informed so well. Because I know here I have relied a lot on our local paper, and they've come through for us in spades. I think they've done great. So it's good to hear that that's not just happening here; it's happening all over.
Oh no, journalists everywhere are having to push it to a new limit. I really believe.
Well, I think that if unless you have any other stories, I feel like that's a really great high note we could end things on.
Well, let me give you another. One time I had to help out a reporter with a story about the Shawnee, formerly the Shawnee Steam Plant. I think it's called the Fossil Plant now up in Paducah. You probably heard about that. If you go to Paducah, you see these big, two big smokestacks in the distance on the west side of the city. Well, that's what that is. It is the Shawnee Steam Plant. And we went out there, and he needed a photo of a coal car, train car, open top with coal coming out the top of it. Well, to do that, you have to climb up on one of these things. And if you've seen coal cars, they are pretty tall. They're not small. They go about 10, 12, 15 feet in the air. And you climb up a little ladder on the outside of that thing. Well, that ladder did not go all the way to the top of it. It left about 3 or 4 feet that you have to take the rest of it to be able to get to the top of it and grab the top of the car. So here we go again with a camera. I'm standing on the top rung of the ladder. And I discovered in those days, if you watch the end of a Super Bowl or a big ball game, these camera folks come in and put their cameras way above their head, usually with a wide angle lens to get the, downward shot and all that stuff. Well, that's what I did with a camera, while holding on with one hand to the top of this thing, and the other blindly shooting the shot over the coal with the two smokestacks in the background. It was the second best shot I ever took.
I was going to say, please tell me you got your shot.
No, I got the shot.
You earned it.
I actually was having to pull up on the top of the car, like a semi-chin-up or a pull-up. My feet were actually off the ladder. Very dangerous maneuver because losing the grip there means a drop to a landing area of gravel and glass and, the railroad tracks. It would have been a very, very rough fall for John.
Yeah. Well, at least you got the shot.
We did get the shot. No question about it. I was very, 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 very proud when I saw it on the screen at the office later. Yeah, we night after the day after the levee was blown at Cairo, Illinois, in the flood of 2000. What was that? 11, I believe. Just a harrowing time, because if they had not done that, there was a good chance that both Paducah and Cairo would have gone underwater. That would have been, the water would have gone over the flood wall at Paducah. And me and a guy from the channel, from WPSD, Mike Spissinger, a great fellow, cameraman for them, we both rode with the governor and had a great conversation with him while we were in the air. That was the first time I'd ever ridden a helicopter, by the way, and that was very interesting. To this day, I still consider it a great honor to have done that, because it covered a very important story for our area that day.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Let's see. We've had a few other things when I was in sports. We had a game in Marshall County one time. It was a basketball game. I think it had something like, let's see. Yeah, they combined for about 45 fouls, about 25 turnovers, and the game lasted 3 hours on a Monday night.
Oh, that's brutal.
So rough. Let's see. We've had some other situations. Oh yeah, I forgot about this one. In Lake State Park in Aurora used to host the PKC World Coon Hunting Championships.
Of course they did.
Huge deal. Late October, and right now this is very, very interesting, because tourism is kind of limbo right now. Well, in the fall and early winter, with the Kentucky Lake tourism places, they don't have a whole lot of guests at some of those resorts things. So that coon hunt was a real blessing in the time that it was there. And there were 3 years in a row, and they talked me into it. They said, "You got to come down here for the finals. You got to come down here for the finals." Well, guess what the finals meant? It meant staying up all night long at the Ken Lake Tennis Center, waiting for the championship cast. They're called casts, which are kind of games, if you will. That's what the coon dogs do. They go out and hunt. That's called a cast. It's, a round, like a round of golf. And they go out in the dark in the middle of the night. And one of the most rewarding things that ever happened when I was in Marshall County, a Marshall County hunter won the title. And you're not going to get that if you don't bite the bullet and try that. So it was really, really an amazing experience doing that.
Cool. All right. Is that your last story? Do you have any others, or is that a good one for us to wrap things up on?
I think that'd be a good one to wrap up. Daryl Newton was his name. He was a very, very down-to-earth guy. He wasn't really a guy that really made a whole lot of himself. He's very humble. But I tell you what, when I saw him win that championship, he got a little animated. Let's just say that. You saw a different side of Daryl Newton that night, or that morning.
And rightly so.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, John, thanks so much. This has been really great. It's been really cool to talk to you. I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, Matt, it's good to talk with you again. I ran into you a few times when you were at Mayfield. It was always good hanging out with you, and it's good hanging out with you one more time here.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yes, sir.
Okay, big thank you again to John for taking a moment to chat with me and to share just a few of the adventures that he has had in the line of his career. I know a few of the adventures that he had, but there were still several I had not heard about from him, and those that we talked about, those were among those several that I had not heard from him. That's the thing about journalism. Every day brings about the possibility of some kind of a new adventure, because no 2 days are the same. You never know what's going to happen. Journalists are on the front lines of history with so many things, and that could range from so much because there's so many possibilities of what could go on out there. You could find yourself covering, of all things, the devastation of a bridge. You could be covering just the effects in your community of a nationwide pandemic that everyone is struggling to deal with. Or you could be covering a coon hunting championship. That's just the life of a journalist. That is the life of a small town community journalist. And it's so unlike the lives and experiences of so many other people out there. So, this is a great episode. I had a lot of fun talking with John and finding some of that stuff out. So now as we wrap things up, I would like to once again put out that call to possibly support my Kickstarter if you feel so inclined. That would really be great. Show some love financially for the comic book project that I've got going on. The link is in the show notes, or just go to Kickstarter and check out Moby Dick, Back from the Deep, #3. And if you want to get in touch with me, there are several ways that you can do so. You can connect with me on Twitter. It's at @TheMattShore. You can connect with me on Instagram @TheShore. I'm also experimenting with both Snapchat and VERO, of all things. You can find me there as @TheMattShore. And last but not least, we do have a Facebook page for our little Shore Manor studio called facebook.com/Shore Manor. Feel free to look us up there and see what all we've got going on in our lives, me and my wife Amanda. So as we wrap things up, it is encouraging to hear from John that subscriptions are up in their area for their newspaper. I hope that's going on here in my area. I hope that's going on in yours. Newspapers are important, and I keep saying this, but it remains true every single time. Newspapers are as important today as they ever have been, regardless of how they're being presented or how you're getting them. Whether you're getting the old school traditional format of a printed edition newspaper, whether you're getting it through a website on your computer, or if you're getting it through a mobile app on your phone. The important thing is that community journalists are still out there, still keeping their communities informed. Nobody's more reliable, nobody's more trustworthy than your local journalist. I firmly believe that, and I will continue to believe that. So, I'll end this thing the way I always do. I'll ask you guys to keep reading and keep listening. Thanks.